Why do we get stressed, and how do we resolve stress at its root? Well, first, I want to use the circle as I do in many of my videos, but I want to reiterate the importance of the circle and where it came from. It came from the Tao Te Ching. Now, the story goes roughly that Lao Tzu, who supposedly wrote the Tao Te Ching, was trying to leave the country, I believe, and the guard said, "Hey, you got to pay us." And he says, "I don't have any money." And he says, "All right, well, what did you do?" And Lao Tzu says, "I was a librarian." This is the rough version of the story. It may not be exact, right? And he says, "All right," the guard says, "All right, well, write me a book of everything you learned." So Lao Tzu writes the Tao Te Ching, and in it, he writes a line that says, "Stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course." Like, what? Imagine being the guard reading this. It's like, this guy's trying to tell me to stand in the center of the circle. What's he talking about? Upon first glance, for most people, this may not make any sense at all. But as we start to gain deeper understandings, which we do through presence, through standing in the center of the circle, through reconstituting and or emptying the mind, as we gain deeper understandings, we start to understand what the heck he was talking about when he told us to stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. He's telling us to be the observer, to be thoughtless, to be the observer in the center. We have to be thoughtless. We have to be detached from the ego. So now that we have this understanding, why do we get stressed about anything? We get stressed because we are not in the center of the circle. We are identifying with the ego or our somebodyness. And when we identify with this somebodyness, it brings us from the thoughtlessness, higher self, God working through us, the divine, whatever you want to call it, the observer. When we start in the cycles of thought, it brings us from the center of the circle, detached, to being attached to our somebodyness, which creates a lower limiting perspective in the illusion. And as long as we're attached to anything, the ego or somebodyness, we're going to be caught in the cycles of suffering. Because when we're attached to our somebodyness, we think things are happening to us. We think we're in control. We think we know things. And when you apply all these things, when you think you're somebody, you're going to be suffering. You're going to be stressed. That's why we're stressed. The reason we have stress is because we're attached. We're in the cycles of thought. We're thinking, and we're attached to being somebody, and we think things are happening to us, and we think we have control. When we're standing in the center of the circle, surrendering, being present, being the observer, detached, then there is no stress because we're not attached to being somebody, and we don't think anything's happening to us, and we don't think we're in control. When you're the observer and you're in a thoughtless state, whatever happens, you're just observing it as nature running off. Whatever anybody does to you or says to you, you're just observing it. You don't get stressed because you realize that everyone is just nature running off. When you practice presence enough, and which is, as we practice presence, this is how we get out of the illusion. We practice presence more and more and more, and we start to dissolve our ego more and more and more and move toward the center of the circle. This is how we get out. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of practice, right? And we get reminders. Stress is a reminder that we need to focus on dissolving the ego more, because it means we're still attached. Stress is reminding us, you're still attached, buddy. You got to get back to dissolving that ego, which is what? Presence in purification. Wait, you didn't mention purification before. All right. Purification works with presence. Because if we want to get to the thoughtless state, if we want to practice presence, we need a holistic approach, right? We need to calm the mind. How do we calm the mind and get into a thoughtless state? We have to remove things that are stimulating and aggravating it, which is what the whole illusion spends all of its time doing, is stimulating and aggravating our mind. So we're constantly attached to our somebodyness. So we're stuck in the cycles of suffering so they can feed off of us energetically. That's how it all works, in case you were wondering. So we need to remove the aggravators. We have to facilitate a state of peace. I talk about this so much because it's so important. Why do you talk about the same thing in all your videos? Because it's so important, guys. This is how we escape the illusion which we're all born into. And we escape this program of our somebodyness, of our ego. This is how we do it. What does facilitate a state of peace? That means we have to replace anything that's stimulating, aggravating with things that are going to calm us, our whole body, our whole state, right? Our mind. We got to purify the body, which is going to help calm the body and calm the mind. Why is purification so important? Well, number one, the purification is one of the greatest devotions to God because our bodies are God, right? It's purification and presence. Two of the greatest devotions to God, because presence is surrendering. Presence is staying in the center of the circle and allowing all things to take their course. That is surrendering to God and allowing God to work through us, the divine. That is opening our channels. You want to open your channels of communication with the divine, practice presence, which we also have to practice purification. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate whether or not you need purification. I've talked about that in other videos. But I'm here to tell you, purification. You want to do purification and presence. This is how do we permanently get out of stressful states? A lot of practice of presence, because we need to continue to dissolve the ego. Remember, stress is reminding you, anytime you're stressed about anything, is saying, hey, guess what? You're still attached. You got to get back to the roots of the dissolving the ego, which is presence, right? Presence. So if we're getting stressed a lot, if we're getting anxiety a lot, this is telling us we need to really focus on removing anything excess that's stimulating or aggravating the mind, which maybe we're doing too much social media, looking at our phones too much, listening. You could be listening to too much aggravating music or watching too much TV or anything. This is why I cut all these things out. Well, I still use social media a little bit, but again, I recognize sometimes if I feel stressed, I'm like, oh, I need to really get back to focusing on presence and purification. Presence, doing things like mantra, saying, okay, I'm going to focus on doing mantra all day if my thoughts are giving me a problem. I'm going to focus on meditating, staying present. That should always be our main focus, but sometimes the pull of the illusion is very strong. So you could be like, yeah, I'm doing good. And then chaos, fear, all those things, news, they catch you. They'll bring you right back in. That's okay. It's all part of the process. So let's get back to the center of the circle, guys. That's how we conquer our stress and our anxiety. And also stress and anxiety and things like this and depression can be caused by an imbalance in the body, chemistry. This is why purification is so important. Purification is so important. That's a video upcoming, why purification is so important. Obviously, I can make a whole video on that. So if we want to get rid of our stress, let's just get ourselves in a peaceful state. Calm yourselves. Listen to some relaxing music. Remember, you're never going to miss a thing. You put your phone down, you'll never miss a thing, because the universe is going to give you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. So try to focus on self-care, taking care of yourself, getting in a peaceful state, taking care of your body. All these things will contribute to helping us relieve ourselves from these cycles of suffering, these stressful states. Thank you for joining me, my friends. Please let me know if you have any questions. May the cosmic beloved bless you, your loved ones, in your day. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.